Beatrice pretended to have lost her memory in a car accident and wanted to strip me of my position. When I happened to walk by, I overheard someone saying to Beatrice, "Can you lend me the position to play with for 7 days? Of course, I'll make sure you enjoy it to the fullest." My steps paused, but I didn't expose her lie. The next day, during the meeting, when Beatrice slammed the table and told me to get out of the company and hand over all the projects, all the employees looked at me, waiting for me to stop Beatrice's unreasonable behavior. But I didn't resist. I just obediently signed the resignation agreement. What she didn't know was that the deadline for submitting the project was only 7 days. And the client only recognized me as the core person in charge. Chapter 1. You can leave if you want, but you must delete all the clients' and colleagues' contact information. Those are the company's resources, and you have no right to take them with you. Just as I was about to leave, I was stopped by Beatrice's ambiguous lover, Phineas. After managing the company for years, I knew very well that the company never had such a rule. He was clearly targeting me on purpose. I turned my head toward my wife. "Beatrice, is this what you want too?" Beatrice stared at me in a daze for a moment, then coldly nodded. If I really deleted all those resources, there would be no room left to fix anything. She was sure I couldn't bear to leave, and that's why she dared to be so tough. It wasn't surprising she thought so. We had been married for 7 years and still had no children. The company was practically our child, and I loved and protected it even more than she did. I worked day and night negotiating deals, cautious and diligent, not daring to delay a single bit. Last week, during a meeting, she proposed promoting Phineas directly to head of the technical department. The senior members of the company all owed her favors, so they reluctantly praised Phineas a few times and passed it. I was the only one who, after assessing that Phineas's ability was far from good enough, vetoed her proposal with a firm no, completely disregarding her pride. She knew very clearly that I would never allow her to mess around in the company. So this time, just to get Phineas what he wanted, she even put on a melodramatic act of memory loss, all to force me into submission. When the colleagues saw us arguing, they all hurried to persuade us. "Christopher, Vice President, calm down. Beatrice is just sick. As her husband, you need to understand her and be patient with her at such a fragile time." Encouraged by their words, Beatrice said solemnly, "My husband is everything. Anyone in this company who dares to go against my husband is going against me." Our colleagues laughed at that, pulling me aside playfully. "See, Christopher, your wife still loves you very much. She's just sick and is mistaking someone else for you." Feeling their envious gazes, I couldn't force a smile at all. The truth was the exact opposite of what they thought and saw. Beatrice and I, as husband and wife, were polite and respectful on the surface, but whenever issues arose, she always forced me to compromise and give in. No matter right or wrong, regardless of the situation, she always stood on the opposite side of me. Because of this, we argued often, but she always said that I was her family, and no matter how bad things got outside, we could always make up at home. But outsiders were different. Once they got angry, things could become irreversible. Though her words made me uncomfortable, hearing them again and again did make them sound somewhat reasonable. But now, seeing her in person, seeing how she could abandon her principles and bottom lines for Phineas, I finally understood. When you truly love someone, your first instinct when they are wronged is to protect them, not to coldly weigh pros and cons. As I was thinking, the stool in front of me was suddenly kicked over by Phineas. "Christopher, you shameless old man. Beatrice's husband is clearly me. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll tear your filthy mouth apart." He pointed at me and cursed as if I were the homewrecker ruining someone else's family. And Beatrice, having witnessed everything, didn't explain a word. She simply stood behind Phineas, silently supporting him. I tugged at the corner of my lips. "Fine, I'll delete them." With that, I took out my phone, posted a status saying I had resigned, and raised my hand, ready to deactivate my work account. Beatrice realized I was serious, and suddenly panicked. She hurried to stop me. "Forget it. Considering you're a long-time employee, you don't need to delete anything. Just go." All the colleagues let out a sigh of relief, but Phineas stomped his foot in dissatisfaction. "Baby, am I, the dignified vice president, not even allowed this bit of authority?" Beatrice, who always indulged Phineas's behavior, shot him a warning look this time, signaling him not to make trouble. Then she softened her expression and transferred 50,000 yuan to me directly, promising, "Don't worry, the company will never chill the hearts of its contributors. Even though you're resigning, what the company owes you won't be reduced by a single cent. We just need some time. As for your severance compensation, we'll give you an answer in 7 days. Go home and rest first." She thought I still didn't know her so-called amnesia was fake. She assumed that 7 days later, she could use her illness as an excuse, then apologize and beg for forgiveness, making everything return to how it was before. But she, the hands-off boss, had no idea that the most important project in her hands had only 7 days left before its submission deadline. This project involved a massive amount of money. If the submission wasn't made on time, or if any issue occurred, she would have to pay an enormous penalty. If this were before, For the sake of the company's stability and her future, I would have swallowed all grievances and compromised. But I was already exhausted. The company and her, I wanted neither anymore. In front of me, Beatrice subconsciously tried to straighten my tie, but then remembered her act and awkwardly withdrew her hand. I glanced at my phone and refunded the transfer. Then I deleted every remark I had set for her in one go. After doing all this, I looked at her calmly and said, "Beatrice, let's get a divorce." Chapter 2. Beatrice was stunned and blurted out, "You want to divorce me? Why?" Just as the words left her mouth, she realized she had slipped. She hurriedly corrected herself. "Divorce? Don't be ridiculous. How could I possibly have married you?" Watching her clumsy acting, I didn't bother exposing her lie, nor did I want to waste my breath arguing. So I simply went along with her play, making up nonsense as I went. "I tricked you into registering the marriage. Now let's go and get it dissolved." Hearing this, Phineas immediately burst into laughter and urged, "About time. Let's go right now." Beatrice hesitated, frowning. She didn't even care about the loopholes in my words, she just wanted to muddle through. "Forget it. This feels a bit strange. I'll decide later." I was puzzled. Didn't she like Phineas? I was taking the initiative to divorce her, giving them a clear path, yet she wasn't happy. If this had been before, I definitely would have asked her why, even ridiculously questioning whether she had ever loved me. But now, I didn't care to guess what was in her mind. I just wanted the divorce finalized as soon as possible. I raised an eyebrow at her and deliberately provoked, "You don't agree to the divorce because you can't let me go, is that it?" Phineas instantly tugged pitifully at Beatrice's sleeve. "Aren't I the one you love the most? How could you marry someone else?" Under the pressure from both of us, Beatrice could only grit her teeth and agree. When the three of us arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, just as we reached the entrance, Beatrice suddenly shook her head, pretending her memory had been triggered by something familiar. She even took my hand proactively. "This place looks familiar. I remember now. On New Year's Eve, you and I stood in a long line here to register our marriage." She knew that day had been my happiest memory. She thought that mentioning our supposedly beautiful past would make me reluctant to divorce. After all, she had used this exact trick to win me back every time she angered me before. But that day, I had not only overheard her faking her amnesia, I had overheard the way she talked about our marriage. What's so romantic about it? The only reason I agreed to marry him on the last day of the year is because I promised I would. But spending the rest of my life with someone I don't love, I truly couldn't accept it. So I kept delaying and delaying until the very last day before I forced myself to go through with it. Anyway, no matter who I marry, it's just passing the days. He has good conditions and can help me. He's a nice person too, a very suitable marriage candidate. I stood outside, listening to her praise, but my heart sank to the bottom. I had believed we were together for love, but to her, I was nothing more than a convenient tool. No wonder that once the company began thriving, she guarded all money and authority tightly, refusing to let me touch any of it. She had been wary of me all along. I drifted off for a moment. Beatrice tugged my hand and asked whether I remembered anything. A marriage built on such mutual suspicion had exhausted me. Cutting my losses was the best choice. I shook my head and replied perfunctorily, "No, you must be imagining things because of your supposed head injury." Beatrice's smile froze instantly, seeing how indifferent I was despite her effort to appease me, and realizing that I, the one who should be understanding the patient, wasn't playing along at all. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She grabbed Phineas's arm and intertwined her fingers with his. "Right, it's all fake. Once we finish the divorce, I'll marry Phineas." She stomped her foot and walked in with Phineas, blissfully holding his hand as if she were here to get married instead. I couldn't be bothered to indulge her tantrums and followed them inside. Right after we completed the registration process, we were brought into a mediation room. Beatrice sat directly on Phineas's lap, took out the grapes she had bought on the way, peeled them one by one, and fed them into his mouth. She thought she was making me jealous, but ironically, all it did was remind me of the cold, shy Beatrice from my memories. In front of others, she had never even been willing to hold my hand. She always said that pulling and touching each other in public was improper. But now, she was like a completely different person, so bold that it made people embarrassed to look at her. Even the staff in the mediation room couldn't stand it anymore. Coupled with my firm attitude, we quickly moved on to the divorce procedures. My expression remained cold throughout, which made Beatrice very displeased. Out of spite, she gave me the silent treatment and rushed through the process. When we walked out with the divorce certificate, I let out a long breath. The heaviness pressing over my head finally lifted a little. I hailed a taxi to go home. Phineas leaned over and saw the address I filled in, the house. His expression instantly darkened. "Home? You're divorced already. That hasn't been your home for a long time. Pack your things right now and get out." Beatrice stood beside him and laughed. "That's right. Kick the outsider out." She wanted me gone so she could clear the space for Phineas. No normal man could tolerate that. The old me couldn't either. But now, I simply nodded indifferently. "Fine, I'll move out." I booked a hotel while sitting in the taxi. After arriving home, I started packing my things seriously. By this point, Everything had spun completely out of Beatrice's control. She rarely backed down, but this time she did, pretending that she had regained a bit of memory. She picked up our wedding photo and asked me, "Christopher, when did we take this picture?" Without even lifting my head, I kept stuffing clothes into my suitcase and replied perfunctorily, "It's fake. I photoshopped it myself." My words completely infuriated Beatrice. She snatched my suitcase and threw each item of my belongings out the door. "Get out. Leave now." With a loud slam, she shut the door. I shook my head silently, bent down, picked up the clothes scattered on the ground, dusted them off, and stuffed them back into my bag. Inside the house, Phineas anxiously said, "President Beatrice, all of this is my fault. I should never have insisted on being vice president. Watching you two divorce. I feel awful. Maybe I should go explain things to my brother-in-law." Beatrice composed herself and comforted him. "It has nothing to do with you. Christopher is just too petty, arguing with a patient. Let's ignore him. I'll stay with you these 7 days, and then we'll figure out the rest. Christopher is easy to coax. I just have to crook a finger, and he'll come back, carrying my things." I stepped into the elevator. She was overthinking it. This time, it was truly over, no chance of reconciliation. Chapter 3. During the days after separating from Beatrice, I felt surprisingly relaxed, except that my former colleagues kept sending me messages. Perhaps they were anxious today, because one of them directly called me, "Christopher, hurry back. The project deadline is almost here." I was about to refuse when I suddenly heard a commotion, as if someone was snatching the phone away. A moment later, Phineas's angry voice came through. "Christopher, you've already been fired. Stop meddling in company affairs." My colleague was furious. "Phineas, what are you doing? Don't you realize that if this project fails, the company will lose a huge amount of money?" Phineas didn't care at all. "What's the panic? I'm almost done with the design draft. I'll hand it in within a few days." My colleague's shocked voice came again. "Nonsense. Your level is nowhere near enough. Besides, the client specifically requested Christopher for the design. You're scamming them. Where's Beatrice? I want to speak to her." Phineas's threatening voice snapped back. "President Beatrice is still sick. If any of you dare to gossip or stir trouble, aren't you afraid I'll fire all of you?" And with that, the call ended, but I could already guess what would happen next. After what happened to me, none of them would dare act rashly. They could only endure silently. I shook my head and stopped thinking about it. I truly let the company go. Before, I had been endlessly busy for the company. Now that I finally had time, I met up with friends. Each day was relaxed and carefree, washing away all the troubles. On the 7th day, I put on a suit and held a groom's boutonniere, preparing to attend a friend's wedding. As I entered the venue, I messaged my friend. The boutonniere fell in the car, but I found it. "I'm bringing it to you now." Just after I sent the message, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Thank you all for coming to attend my wedding with Phineas." I turned around and saw Beatrice wearing a wedding dress, arms linked with Phineas, greeting the guests. Their wedding photos were even displayed outside the hall. Phineas spotted me first. He grabbed Beatrice's chin and kissed the corner of her lips. The surrounding guests screamed in excitement, and Beatrice shyly hid in his arms. Then she suddenly looked up, right into my eyes, and froze. Realizing her reaction, she immediately straightened up and deliberately put some distance between herself and Phineas. Phineas noticed and pursed his lips, unhappy that Beatrice seemed to be leaning toward me, mistaking me for someone coming to ruin the wedding. And noticing the crowd watching, he rushed over with tears in his eyes. Clutching my hand, he begged dramatically, "Christopher, I really love Beatrice. Please let us be together. Don't steal her away from me." Beatrice raised an eyebrow and was about to defend Phineas when she suddenly noticed the groom's boutonniere in my hand. She subconsciously assumed I was here to get married, and her eyes instantly turned red. "Christopher, how could you hide it from me and marry someone else?" I knew she misunderstood, but I had no intention of explaining. I said coldly, "Ma'am, we're already divorced. Please have some self-respect." Beatrice stared at me in a daze. She no longer had the energy to act. She exaggeratedly pretended her memories were coming back, then grabbed my hand and asked, "Christopher, why am I wearing a wedding dress? Are you here to marry me again?" As she spoke, she reached for the boutonniere in my hand to pin it on me. I caught her hand, my voice indifferent. "Stop pretending. I heard the entire process of you and Phineas scheming that fake memory loss." Meeting the icy chill in my eyes, Beatrice realized she couldn't hide it anymore. Dropping the act, she said with an unpleasant expression, "I only did that because you're biased against Phineas and keep suppressing him. I had no choice but to resort to this. You don't even know, while you were gone, Phineas managed the company very well." I let out a cold laugh. "Is he managing it well, or hiding things well? Do you even know that today is the deadline for the Bright Light Company project?" Beatrice froze, turning her head sharply toward Phineas. Phineas smiled and explained, "Relax, I handled it already. No need for Beatrice to worry about such a small matter." Then he shot me a provocative look. "Christopher, you don't know, do you? I submitted the design draft long ago. The client has already started mass production. Sorry if my excellence disappoints you." Hearing this, Beatrice nodded in satisfaction. She had just opened her mouth to speak when her phone rang. She smiled and waved the phone at me. The client is probably calling to praise Phineas. You really should reflect on yourself and apologize to him properly. With pride written all over her face, she pressed the answer button and turned on the speaker. But immediately, the client's furious voice blasted out. Idiots. We asked for Christopher's design. How dare you submit a worthless draft from some intern and try to fool us? This is a serious breach of contract. You've caused us massive losses. Prepare 100 million yuan for the penalty. See you in court. If you can't pay, be ready to rot in prison. Chapter 4. Beatrice was stunned by the scolding. How could this happen? We've cooperated so many times, there's never been a mistake. Just as she was about to explain, the call was cut off. All these matters had always been handled by me. She had always been a hands-off boss. Now, right after boasting and praising Phineas, a disaster hit. She couldn't swallow her pride to ask me, so she could only frown and question Phineas. What happened? Didn't you say everything was already taken care of? Phineas's expression was terrible. He complained angrily. That client is really ungrateful. I worked so hard on that draft. How could he talk about me like that? It's just a small project. If they don't want it, fine. Beatrice's eyelids twitched fiercely. That's a 100 million yuan penalty. The company wasn't big. There was no way it could produce 100 million to compensate. And now that this happened, the company's reputation was ruined in the industry. Getting new projects would be extremely difficult. Even after being reprimanded, Phineas still looked indifferent. So what? It's only 100 million. Just pay them. He said it so casually, as if the penalty were a single dollar. Well, of course, it was company money, and Beatrice would never punish him. He wouldn't lose anything, naturally. He didn't care. Even Beatrice couldn't stand such outrageous remarks. She regretted ever losing her mind enough to let Phineas become vice president. She had thought, it's only 7 days, no matter how bad he is at management. What could possibly go wrong? She never expected that this one decision would completely change her fate. Phineas was still cursing the client, using every dirty word he knew. Beatrice finally couldn't take it anymore and interrupted. Enough. Didn't I tell you that you must be strict and serious in the company? How could you make decisions on your own and upload a design draft yourself? You're just an intern. Phineas pouted unhappily. I'm the vice president. If I don't even have that bit of authority, what's the point of being vice president? Chapter 5. Besides, Beatrice. So what if I messed up a project? Why are you being so fierce with me? He acted as if he had been wronged, rambling on and on. Listening to him list out the projects he had ruined, I unexpectedly found answers to many things. Previously, there was a project I was in charge of. I supervised it personally, and the draft was perfectly fine when we checked it. But once the client received it, it looked completely different. Beatrice blamed everything on me and scolded me for a long time. Yet I clearly checked the draft repeatedly and only allowed the submission once I was sure it had no issues. Who knew, when Phineas submitted it, he accidentally deleted the source file, too afraid to ask us for another copy. He uploaded an unedited version on his own. The client was furious. All the problems they had pointed out remained untouched, and they confronted Beatrice on the spot, demanding an explanation. Beatrice immediately wanted to fire one of my interns at random to appease the client. I refused. In the end, the situation escalated badly, and as their supervisor, I had to take responsibility. After all, no matter who messed up, it was considered my failure to manage properly. I took the initiative to accept the punishment, being demoted and having my salary cut. And to salvage the project, I humbled myself, apologized to the client repeatedly, and only then was I able to resolve the situation. Yet until today, I finally learned the truth. Phineas had been the one at fault all along. Beatrice knew, yet she indulged him, deliberately pinned the blame on me, and forced me to clean up the mess. Now, unaware of my change in attitude, Beatrice scolded Phineas a few more times before sighing helplessly. Forget it. Everyone knows exactly how limited your abilities are. I don't expect anything from you. After that, Beatrice looked at me with affectionate eyes. Christopher, you're still the best. I believe you can handle this incident. No matter how difficult the project or how picky the client is, you always manage to solve it. It was my fault before. Phineas really can't compare to you. My dear husband is still the most capable. I was about to refuse when Phineas immediately grew jealous. Beatrice, I'm not as bad as you make me sound. This time, Beatrice didn't indulge him. She scolded sharply. Enough. Isn't this whole mess you're doing? I made you vice president just to let you have fun and show off a bit. With your measly skills, you actually dared interfere in real work. Beatrice reprimanded Phineas harshly. It was rare for her to take my side, but I felt no joy at all. Her praise for Phineas had always come from the bottom of her heart, but whenever she praised me, it was always just on the surface, always followed by a request for help. I used to like her sweet words, but now that I understood her true nature, I found her behavior revolting. When Beatrice asked me again to help with the situation, I lifted my hand and calmly refused. I've already resigned. I have no right to manage anything in the company. Chapter 6. Beatrice's expression turned slightly unpleasant, but she quickly added, all of that was just a joke. But what Phineas did that day really went too far. Phineas, come apologize to Christopher. Once you apologize, we'll consider the matter settled. Phineas was unwilling. Why should I? I didn't do anything wrong. Why do I have to apologize? He looked like someone who would never bow his head. Beatrice warned him coldly. Phineas, don't forget who gives you your money. If the company loses too much, it won't be good for you either. Do you still want your BMW? Threatened with the loss of his luxury car, Phineas finally gave me an unwilling apology. Sorry, is that good enough for you? Beatrice was really generous with him. She even bought him a luxury car. Back then, when I saved up to buy myself a modest car just for commuting, she nagged me for half a year. We've only lived well for a few days and you already spent $100,000 on a car. What a waste. You couldn't just ride my old electric scooter. When I started my business, I rode that little scooter everywhere. Why can't you? I remembered explaining over and over that I needed a decent image for business negotiations, but she didn't accept any explanation. She accused me of having money but refusing to spend it on her. Later, when her nagging became unbearable, I took her to buy a gold necklace. Only then did she quiet down. Looking at this now, the contrast was painfully obvious. Who was truly her beloved, and who was not? And I had been kept in the dark all this time, only realizing everything recently. I shook my head, not wanting to think about it anymore. Beatrice thought my expression meant I had forgiven her. Just as she reached out to pull me along, my friend rushed over anxiously. Christopher, I asked you to grab the boutonniere. Why are you taking so long? You're going to delay the ceremony. Beatrice suddenly laughed, completely relieved. So you're not getting married to someone else? Why didn't you explain it to me? Oh, I get it. You wanted me to be jealous on purpose. Fine. Let's stop fooling around. Let's deal with the company crisis first. I returned the boutonniere to my friend and shook off Beatrice's hand. I'm here to attend a wedding. The mess you two made, solve it yourselves. Beatrice lifted her chin unhappily, raising her eyebrows as she scolded me. Is your friend's wedding more important than the company? Phineas and I have already apologized. How long are you going to keep making trouble? Chapter 7. Her words sounded righteous and dignified, but if she hadn't indulged Phineas's behavior, how would things have ever gotten to this point? I ignored her and simply chatted with my friend. Seeing us pay no attention to him, Phineas became irritated. Christopher, the day isn't over yet. I'm still your superior. After all these years of working, is this how you talk back to your boss? Beatrice saw he was about to start swearing and scolded him a few times. Then, remembering she still needed my help, she softened her tone. Fine. I'll go attend the wedding with you first. After everything is done, we'll deal with the project situation. As she spoke, she prepared to go change out of her wedding gown. I raised an eyebrow at her, fed up with her clinging. I'd said it countless times already. Why couldn't she understand? Beatrice, I divorced you, and I resigned. From now on, whatever happens between you and the company, don't bother me. The gazes of the people around us all fell onto her, making her uncomfortable. She looked at me awkwardly. It was all just a joke. Why are you taking it so seriously? I laughed. You moved Phineas into the house. Were you just joking then? Beatrice instantly looked guilty. It was just acting. As she said that, she nudged Phineas with her elbow. Phineas immediately caught on and said, right, it was all acting. If brother-in-law can't stand me, I'll move out right now. He shot me a provocative look. These past days he'd been living at my former home, constantly sending me videos to provoke me, saying Beatrice took great care of him, made different breakfasts for him every day. Beatrice even blocked my main account and posted a cooking photo. Cooking for the one I love most makes me happy. Right, I wasn't the one she loved. All the cooking and chores had always been done by me, and she never lifted a finger. I shook my head. No need. You're her husband now. It's only natural for you to live there. Phineas raised an eyebrow. I'm already being humble here. Why are you acting so arrogant? And besides, insult me if you want, but how could you not trust President Beatrice after being husband and wife with her? I replied indifferently. Don't say that. I never had a wife who pretended to have amnesia and brought another man home. Let's end this peacefully. Beatrice looked at me with disappointment, her eyes faintly shimmering with tears. Christopher, you weren't like this before. She still didn't understand. Before, I treated her well and gave in to her again and again because I loved her. But now, I didn't love her anymore. I walked toward the banquet hall with my friend and stopped paying attention to them. Chapter 8. At the wedding, I helped my friend run around handling things, and he didn't ask about what happened earlier. Only after everything was done did I finally have time to check my phone. That was when I realized that news of the company's project problem had already spread throughout the industry. Beatrice could no longer sit still. She had to stabilize the client on one side and calm down the furious shareholders on the other. The person running around frantically had become her. During this time, Beatrice also sent me messages asking for help, but I kept refusing every single one of them. This finally infuriated her. Christopher, I'm giving you face by asking you to save the situation. Don't be ungrateful. I directly deleted and blocked her, never replying again. The situation spiraled out of control, spreading far beyond the usual circles. For several days in a row, she dominated the headlines. The company's stock price also plummeted rapidly. Just like that, not only Beatrice couldn't hold on anymore, the company's shareholders were panicking too. In the lobby of my hotel, Beatrice, holding a gift, had dragged along the company's core members to persuade me. A colleague pulled me aside and tried to talk sense into me. Christopher, couples fight all the time. Beatrice knows she was wrong. Just forgive her already. Now the company is in crisis. It really needs your help. Yeah, you don't want to watch the company you built with your own hands collapse, right? Seeing that even old colleagues had come to beg me, I asked them, do you all know that Beatrice's amnesia was fake? Hearing my question, everyone fell silent. In their eyes, I didn't see surprise, only regret. Holding onto the table, I couldn't help laughing. So it wasn't just Beatrice who betrayed me. Even the colleagues and friends I had known for years had helped her hide it. These people never move unless there's profit involved. If the company weren't about to collapse, they would never have come to plead with me. They took turns giving excuses for Beatrice, trying to persuade me. Beatrice even lowered herself to coax me humbly. I pushed the gift she brought as far away as possible. You're all so capable, aren't you? Then solve it yourselves. Seeing my attitude remain unshakably firm, Beatrice finally dropped her friendly mask. Christopher, what good does it do you to bring down the company? Chapter 9. Ridiculous. I merely refused to clean up their mess, yet she pinned the company's problems on me. I shook my head. Beatrice, even if the company does well, it doesn't benefit me. I've always just earned a fixed salary. Not only that, Beatrice was harsh with my bonuses. She said that since I was her husband, I shouldn't waste the company's money, and that she'd cook me a meal at home as my reward. But Phineas did absolutely nothing, and she kept finding ways to give him bonuses. Beatrice raised an eyebrow, telling me not to be stubborn. She thought I still couldn't let go of the company I had built from scratch. But I was no longer that hot-headed young man from back then. I had become realistic too. Dragging my suitcase, I handed her a document. I've already accepted this company's job offer. Once my visa is processed, I'm leaving. Give it up. After resigning, I received an invitation from another company. They had been trying to recruit me for a long time, and I was tempted. But back then, I felt my home was here. I couldn't just leave everything behind to work elsewhere. Yet now, my home was long gone. The career I had devoted years to had also reset to zero. So I didn't think twice. I accepted. Seeing the job offer, everyone froze in shock. Beatrice couldn't believe how decisive I was. She muttered irritably, Christopher, you're just trying to scare me, right? Didn't you say you'd never leave me for the rest of your life? Why cling to my promise when she never fulfilled hers? When everyone realized I couldn't be persuaded, disappointment washed over their faces. I stood up and prepared to say my goodbyes. Right then, out of nowhere, Phineas rushed over and punched me. I immediately raised my arm and landed a punch back. Seeing the fight escalate, everyone hurriedly pulled us apart. Phineas's eyes were red as he roared at me. Christopher, you're such a piece of trash. Do you know, now that this blew up, President Beatrice not only has to pay, it could land her in jail if she can't fix it. You keep saying you love her the most, but the moment she needs you the most, you run away, you shameless bastard. Chapter 10. The one who messed everything up was Phineas. What right did he have to point fingers at me? My colleagues, finding his words too harsh, hurried to explain the situation to me in fragments. Only then did I learn that over these 7 days, Phineas had squandered the company's money recklessly. Now that the $1 billion compensation couldn't be paid, other partners had also terminated their contracts, demanding restitution from the company. Beatrice was already entangled in lawsuits, and if she couldn't repay the debts, she would end up in prison. So things had truly blown up. No wonder she was desperate. But what did that have to do with me? I couldn't be bothered to respond. When Beatrice heard Phineas say all that, she quickly turned her face away, secretly wiping her tears. Seeing the mood shift, the other colleagues circled around again to persuade me. Yes, Beatrice may have been a bit childish, but she and Phineas are completely innocent. Nothing happened between them. Just pretend it never happened. Okay. Exactly. We're all adults here. Marriage requires turning a blind eye sometimes. Don't take it too seriously. Right. After all, you were married, no matter what. You can't just watch her lose everything and even go to prison, can you? Looking at their disgusting attempts to persuade me, I didn't even want to dirty my mouth by arguing with them. If the same thing happened to their spouse, none of them would have remained as calm as I was. I shook my head, still unmoved. Beatrice gritted her teeth and finally lowered herself before me. I promise, this will be the last time. As long as you help me through this one thing, I swear I'll return to the family. If you're unhappy, I'll fire Phineas right now. I'll cut ties with him completely. Phineas stood there red-eyed, refusing to say another word, but I still didn't look back. No need. Just go live your life with him. Goodbye, everyone. Actually, No, it's never seeing you again. Ignoring Beatrice's desperate cries, I walked out, got into a taxi, and headed to the airport, boarding my flight. Not long after, I received messages from my former colleagues. The company had gone bankrupt. Beatrice, unable to repay the money, had all her assets frozen, and she was imprisoned. As for Phineas, every cent and item he had taken from Beatrice was recovered to help cover the debts. I quietly turned off my phone, got up from my bed, and headed to work. A new day had begun.